dialed in to Bucks and Brews, you might hear something you can use. Like tips on your cash or tips on the suds. You're gonna want to use the smarts of these stuff. Cause they know the brews, and they know the Bucks, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks. So listen up, cause shit's not funny. And save yourself some beer money. Bucks and Brews.
Bucks and
Bucks and Brews.
Bucks and Brews.
All right, welcome back to Bucks and Brews. Nick, we have a guest this week.
I love guest week.
I do love guest week as well, and I've been pumped for this one ever since we got in contact. And we'll get to that in a second, because what is the most important thing we have to talk about tonight?
Hey, David, what are you drinking?
Oh, I have such fun stuff tonight, Nick. So from a brewery that's near and dear to my heart, because they gave us a free 6-pack, and
Anybody that gives us a free 6-pack got a soft spot in my heart.
absolutely. So from Dustel Brewery, I have a peanut butter porter.
Ooh.
When I get done with that, I'm going to Grand Armory. I have a great Grand Armory story later.
Yeah.
Blurred Limes, Key Lime Cream Ale.
So that's
I have had Grand Armory beers.
Yeah.
Not had this one. And then Rogue, who likes to like our stuff on Twitter, but will not send us beer yet.
Yeah.
We got to work on that.
Don't worry, we'll get them.
Santa's Private Reserve 2021 Kringle Crusher. I've had that a few times as well. That's a delicious beer. Nick, what you got?
Say I'm starting out with a Michelob Ultra, going to another one and another one and another one. And
We'll see what happens.
My Michelob Ultra, I'm still slimming down. I win another belt loop on the pants. I know I'm losing at least something.
There you go.
So
we are joined by Jesse tonight. And Jesse, what are you drinking?
I am drinking the Mill Pond Dirty Blonde Ale from Oyster City. So Oyster City's in Apalachicola, which is it's like little small beach town in the panhandle of Florida. And they're one of my favorite Florida beers, one of my favorite Florida breweries.
Nice.
So, yeah.
1 week from today,
You will be in Florida.
we'll be in Florida.
Oh, where in Florida?
We're going to Orlando.
Oh, nowhere near here. So,
Yeah.
well, have fun.
I will. That's all it's going to be, is just fun.
2 months from today, I will be in Florida. Also in Orlando.
I say as we both drink. Jesse,
Yeah, we're good at this,
Say-
aren't we? We are very professional.
hey, we like to drink and talk.
We do.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why are you so passionate about this millennial generation thing?
Well, so I'm Jessie De Silva. I'm known as the Millennial Money Witch. That's a name given to me by Forbes. I'm an intuitive mindset coach and business consultant. And so some of the things I do is A, I help entrepreneurs start and scale businesses. B, I help companies retain talent and increase profits by putting forward people first policies. And then finally, I help professionals find their dream jobs and dream companies for dream pay. So why I'm passionate about kind of millennial workers issues is because I think it's a really unique situation that's arisen. Like we're seeing so much talk about like the Great Resignation. And something I've been saying is that it's not like the Great Resignation. This is the workers' strike that's essentially going on. That's what's happening. And I think that while it encompasses plenty of generations, I think that the ones that are kind of moving into that space of leaving behind like traditional employment the most is probably going to be millennials. Like it's a pretty big generation, and they're in that phase of their career where there's not as much upward mobility. There's not as much room for pay increases that companies want to give away. And they're over it. Like they're uniquely over it in a way that nobody else is. And so that's why I talk a lot about like the millennial perspective of it, but it's obviously something everybody's dealing with right now, thanks to the pandemic and a unique cocktail of circumstances that have led us to this point.
Thanks, pandemic.
Well, you do qualify as a millennial.
That's a fact.
I'm
Truer statement couldn't be said.
I'm quite a bit older than you.
You are, Grandpa.
I know.
Yeah.
Luckily, I do not quite count as a millennial. I missed it by about 4 years. So I'm
Luckily,
honestly happy about that because I don't get the crap that your generation does.
Oh my God. Well, I think every generation gets crap, right? I mean, right now as a millennial, I still talk crap about the kids below us because,
I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't think Gen X got a lot of crap. I mean, boomers didn't like us, but they were our parents, and honestly, fuck boomers. A little passionate about that. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I did follow Jesse's live she had a couple weeks ago. She was out there answering anybody's question, literally, and I thought that was fabulous. It reminds me of what Nick and I like to do. We love to just get on here and dig into people's specific issues.
Yep.
The BuzzFeed article I thought was fabulous. When I look at things, because I don't see myself as a traditional worker anymore. I started working from home full time in 2011. I don't go to the office anymore. The only time I go to a job is when I go to my wife's business and I work for her for free. I guess technically as a softball coach, I go to that job, but that's fun. So I don't really count it. And I damn near work for free there. But, I think especially what the pandemic showed is all these jobs that used to be in the office, they always should have been from home.
Yeah. What's funny is that I just read some kind of stat from a study posted on LinkedIn that said basically there's almost been no change in like this idea of like people should be able to work from home. It's like actually around the same percentage of people who are going into the office. It's only been changed by about like 3% or like 0.3%. I don't remember what it was. It was something nuts, and it's because, as I like to say, I think it's because a lot of the executives, there's just a disconnect between like boomer executives and like everybody else, but especially millennials, where, they kind of still have this perspective of millennials being like teenagers who like want to be on their phones and, play around. And millennials are very much like an autonomous group where they're like, I don't need you looking over my shoulder. Like, I'm gonna get my work done. And like, why can't we don't need this many in-person meetings. This meeting could have been an email, so I think it's like a clash of two different kinds of work cultures, especially, and there's so much resentment there too, because a lot of those boomers who, for the record, like, let's not pretend that like boomers are like all have the American dream. That's obviously not true. But the difference is that I think millennials and Gen Z are both like, they have this different understanding of class mobility where they're like, oh, it's likely not going to change. Like if I was born middle class, I'm probably going to stay class. There's not that same identification with like millionaires, but like boomers, and I'll say like my parents included, they're very much like, well, I could be like, maybe, yeah, like maybe I'll get there. Like, even though I'm 65, whatever, maybe I could get there still. And so like, you have this disconnect where it's like, these executives are still thinking of themselves in this like they're still working because they can't afford to retire. And then that's keeping millennials back from advancing in their careers because you can't promote Gen X workers and then you can't promote millennial workers. Like it's just, everybody's just stuck. And meanwhile, boomers keep voting the way that they're voting, which is keeping everybody stuck, right? Like that's really what it comes down to.
Right. And I think, especially with boomers, right? They went through quite a bit of financial turns, right? I mean, they just watch. So I don't know if it's that they have to continue to work because, I mean, they're one of the most wealthy generations that we've seen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that pay gap for them is the problem.
Yeah.
You have a lot of wealthy boomers, but you have a lot of very, very poor boomers.
And, so I look at it, I mean, if I have a cushy job way up at the top, and I was raised by, above boomers, but right, it was work hard and get promotions and, work your way all the way up to the top. And very, very quickly in my career, I learned that was not a thing at all in any way, shape or form, right? Like I was working temp at a place and it's like, all right, the economy still wasn't good, I guess, when I was temping. So it would have been 2007, 8, so it was like, oh, hey, work hard and you'll get hired into this company. And, 6 months in, Am I getting hired in? Oh no, they don't hire anybody in, right? Like, doesn't matter how hard you work. And then, I go to Gentex, work my tenure,
Yeah.
my career. And right, like I worked up high enough, like they had level B positions.
Yeah.
I worked a non-salary level D, and right, in order to move up, you have to go to college. You have to do this, and hey, we're gonna map out a little thing for you. And it's like, no, I'm proven I'm successful way over here. I've proven I can do everything. I've literally led your groups and done all this, and now I'm getting right.
Vanity metrics. I had a friend who went to, like, she was stuck in her job where they were just straight up like, well, we can't pay you more because you don't have a master's. So she refers to her degree as her receipt. Like, she literally just went and got a master's to have it under her belt so she could get paid more.
Yep.
And like what I teach people is like networking. Like, you got to network your way to a job, because the traditional modes of employment and like job boards and stuff, they don't pay off in the way that you want them to. Yeah. So that's what I teach.
Then that's great. Like, I don't have my dream job because I still work. I took a new position. So I was retired for about 4 months. I took a new position, but when I went into this job, because they were looking for help more than I was looking for work, say, I went in and I said two things. I said, one, I get to wear sandals every day to work. And number two, I get unlimited time off, right? I won't use and abuse that, but I will definitely take my time off. So, and I got that. And now I can be home. I can pick up my kid from school. I can drop my kid off to school. I can do all that. So in theory, I have everything I want out of a position. Now it's just, are they demanding too much of me in my position?
Well, that's kind of the same spot I'm in. People ask me all the time how successful my wife's business has been. When are you quitting? I work with my cats.
Right.
I like what I do. They leave me alone. Literally, that's all I'm looking for. I get paid a great salary. I'm left alone. I'm at home every day. Last night I was working till 7:00 at night because I was there and I wanted to bank a few hours so that, I had an appointment today. I could run out to my appointment and not have to take any PTO.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that kind of denotes another kind of cultural difference too, is that like millennials have burned out way before anybody else. Like, they were way disillusioned way before. I think most people get to that point because, so many of us were starting our careers either during, before, or right after the 2008 financial crash. And so we were told we were like, okay, go into grad school if you can't get a job, or like, go take an internship or take a job for very low pay. And that didn't pay off. Like, for anybody, it really didn't pay off. And so they basically dealt with the repercussions of that for the past 10 years. And so, yeah, when you like run into a situation like an international pandemic that sends home 70% of the workforce, those millennials are going to start getting ideas about like, why can't I just stay home all the time? Like, if I can do my job remotely, why are you going to make me come back into the office? And hey, if these skills are like worthwhile and now everybody's remote, I can start applying to, like, I can go work for a much bigger organization or an organization that's based in a much bigger city, start making more money, or even start my own business and do it for freelance and not have to deal with any of the bullshit.
Right. Well, and one of the girls watching us on Twitch basically said just that. Now, full disclosure, I coached her. She's grown up knowing Nick her whole life, but the pandemic for her brought her a work-life balance she never had before. And she's more productive at home than she's ever been in the office. And I know I have also experienced that. The minute they said, you have an option, you can be in the office 5 days a week or you can go home 5 days a week. And I went home, my production increased heavily.
Yeah.
Because I'm home.
Well, that, and I mean, you feel like you have to hit goals more and you don't know what those goals are, right? You're not comparing it to the person that's literally doing nothing, right? Like, I'm watching a guy sit on a computer all day going, man, if he's not getting fired, I'm definitely not getting fired. I at least did one thing today, right?
Well,
So,
right.
I'm such an introvert.
Yeah.
I don't want to be around people.
Oh yeah.
Like, me reaching out to Jesse in the first place is out of my comfort zone, but I did it because everything I, saw from her made me go, hey, this woman thinks like we think, and we need to talk to her. But, I don't want the 15 minutes at the office. Hey, how you doing today? What'd you do this weekend? Leave me alone. You're not my friend. I don't know you.
See,
I want to do my thing.
That's exactly what I want.
I don't.
So, Jesse, real quick, you had kind of brought up a point. You said, millennials kind of got sent home, stuff like that, and they start thinking, can I do this for myself? How many people are you seeing growing businesses versus, older generations, I guess? Because I know now.
Yeah. Not like I'm some like age old, like elf here who's seen plenty of business get started, but I see like there's definitely like a trend, especially because you can do so much online and you can you can easily like, let's say just like writing. I'm a good writer, so I'm going to start doing copywriting. There's plenty of companies and businesses of all sizes who are willing to, save a buck on not paying a salary, but paying for a package from somebody. So I think it's just been a matter of trial and error. When the pandemic first really hit, I saw I was a job hunt coach initially. When the pandemic hit, I was at a point where, I'd been in business for like 8 to 9 months at that point, and I made all these mistakes and figured out how to turn a profit. And I was like, oh, we have to stay home now. Oh, a lot of people are about to lose their jobs. So what I did was I was like, okay, I'm going to teach people how to start businesses and start them online, and like how to get in touch with the right clients and build a following and all of that. And it was like moths to a flame. Like everybody was interested in that content, whether they had a job or not, because most of those people were like, I finally have time to myself. And I've always wanted to be a life coach. I've always wanted to be a copywriter. I've always wanted to do this. Always wanted to freelance. And so then they had time to actually dedicate toward it because, they could balance both without ever leaving home or changing out of their pajamas.
Yeah. When the pandemic first hit, I became a true millennial. I know that song. Sorry, my ringtone just went off, and I'm sitting here going, "Am I hearing my own ringtone in my head?"
You were, yes.
As my phone didn't light up. I was like, "It's crazy." But they say millennials just want to sit at home, play video games, and do nothing. And when the pandemic hit, my wife told me I couldn't go out. Right? She's in the medical field. She's like, "You're stuck here," and I was like, "Good. All I'm going to do is play video games." First time in 5 years I've touched a video. I had to dig it out, get the dust off of it. And I was like, this is a true millennial for me. She got fed up with it after 2 weeks, of course. And she said, hey, you realize you have a kid? And I was like, yeah, tell her to play upstairs. I'm playing video games.
Yeah, it's funny because Jesse hit on it earlier. Everybody looks at millennials and they're like, well, they're 15.
Yeah.
But that's just not the case. I mean, they're in their 30s.
Well, and I forget that and we talk about that, granted, just because I've known her, but I will always look at her as a 15-year-old.
Well, and she's not technically a millennial. So Jessica, who's watching us on Twitch right now, is technically not a millennial. She's Gen Z.
Sure.
Okay, just like, my daughter is.
Yeah.
And, they're not getting the bad rap yet because, again, boomers think that millennials are 15.
That's true.
And they don't want to work, and they don't want to do this, and they don't want to do that. And what it really is they don't want to work for shitty money. Yeah. And they don't want to do shitty jobs. They're fully, no, you're not. They're fully capable of running the world at this point.
Yeah. Well, I say, and we talk about wage things all the time, right? And you're more pro 15 an hour. I am very much work your ass off and make whatever you want type of an hour, right? Very entrepreneurial mindset, right? I don't think a company should hand you anything except for a job, I guess, right? And a company shouldn't hand it to you. You should have to go earn it, in my opinion, right? That's what an interview's for. So.
Well, I disagree. I think that actually $15 an hour is outdated, and it should be around 20 to 25. Even for the so-called unskilled workers, I think everybody deserves that, especially depending on where you live in the world. Because if you look at the historical context to setting the minimum wage, it was designed to allow you to afford a home, to afford groceries, to afford all of these things, and no one can afford it on minimum wage. It's like the same thing I tell entrepreneurs, right? It's like, if your problem is that you have let's say you have hourly sessions, right? Like you're some kind of code or, whatever it is. Maybe it's even.
Whoa.
Say we might have lost her for a second.
Yep, we're frozen up, so Nick and I will just sit here and talk about whatever.
Say no, and
Because
sorry,
you're back.
We
okay,
lost
I was
you for
like
a
on
second.
my soapbox.
You
okay.
were too.
You were.
Oh.
So get back on your soapbox and let us know what you were saying.
Oh, all right. So I was saying, like, even with, it's the same thing with entrepreneurs where it's like, so say with like a lot of coaches, like the model is basically like, you'll have like a one-off session someone can sign, and then you might have packages people can roll into. Or even with VAs, they go based on an hourly rate. But the problem is that when your rate is too low, you become physically incapable of making any money past a certain point, no matter how many hours you work, because you just can't get there at that hourly rate. So it's the same thing with minimum wage. Like if you have like 3 minimum wage jobs and you work every hour, like in the day, and you never sleep, like you're still only ever going to you're going to cap out, and it's still not going to be at a livable wage. So that's why, to me, it's the whole point of why it was invented as a floor, was to allow people to live. And like, to me, like the $15 an hour, that's information from 15 years ago. I mean, not 15 years ago, like 5 years ago. At this point, with the rate of inflation, it should be around 20 at least. And that's what it's designed to do. And like, personally, I think like we should be paid not a livable wage, but a thrivable wage. But there has to be like a bottom to it.
And I don't disagree with what you say, right? But what I prefer to look at it as is, we talk about this as like a movement, right? Like people are, the Great Resignation. No, like it does. It takes everybody to get on board to lower this. So now if people stopped buying houses, if we stopped letting people impact us and say, oh, you need to have your own house, you need to have a very nice car, you need to go out and buy this. And the reason that rates are up, besides inflation, is because people have been given the opportunity to borrow everything and afford everything. So they go out and afford everything,
Yeah,
right?
How did that happen?
I'm also going to disagree on that as well, because with the rate of home prices and how they've risen over time, they've risen at a much higher exponential rate than wages have. So the purchasing power that we have now with our dollars, like even if you're adjusting for inflation from like backwards from the 80s up and like forward, and then from now back to like the meeting point of 2000, it's still about like an $80,000 difference for the same house. And so it's not the same. And it's also like, people aren't going to stop buying houses, because that's not who's buying houses right now. Who's buying houses and who's buying property are big companies. They're big companies, they're investment firms. They're also like house flippers who pay in cash. And I'm not here to disparage any of those, like any house flippers, because I know a few of them. But like, the problem is that like homes are still getting sold because they're not being bought by real people anymore. They're being bought by investment firms. So the house, like they're doing that specifically to inflate the price of homes. So a median home right now in the United States is $283,000. That's a median. That's the average. Yep. And we're talking about like comparatively, like that's just not affordable with where wages are right now. So even if somebody like could get approved for that mortgage, we're talking about something that's astronomically higher than it's been in the past. So I still disagree.
But if you look at, and my point is if you look at it, okay, so 283 is minimum. Okay. Now the problem is it's in a great neighborhood. It's $283,000. It's never going to sell for 283.
It's in a great neighborhood here.
Well, just anywhere. Let's just say average.
No, if we're talking like national home, that doesn't necessarily mean it's in a good neighborhood. That's the average. So that's the average of all the shitty houses in bad neighborhoods and all the good houses in good neighborhoods, and all of the ones in between. So, and like all across the nation. So it's going to vary like greatly according to like geography, but even so, like even in these like I'm not talking about New York City and Washington, D.C. anymore, although it's insane. The pricing there is like, I know somebody who literally was like, she and her husband wanted a 1-bedroom, and like the price for a 1-bedroom condo was like $1 million. Like, and that's like fairly standard. So
it's still considered
but like
poor.
even smaller cities, you're still seeing this problem where people can't even buy in the suburbs anymore, because like the prices are still so much higher. And it's because of these investment firms buying up property in mass to then get the prices much higher and then resell them at a higher price, like the same homes.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's what I do for work, right? I mean, I buy and sell houses, and but to me, it's, you don't have to buy anything, right? Nobody's forcing you to, right? Oh, hey, I want to live in this area. You could, and we talk about working remote, go find the cheap areas and keep moving to these cheap areas. Go.
Yeah, but
You shouldn't have to.
you
No,
have
but
a child.
I do.
You want to go to one of the cheap areas with your child.
I'm fine with it. I grew up in the.
also, here's the thing too, is that the alternative is renting, and renting is a much worse market than the housing market. So the problem is that like a mortgage in an area could be like, $900, $600, but nobody can afford it because the rent, on the other hand, is $1,500. So, it's, I believe Terry Pratchett had a comparison in one of his books where he explains like the economic theory using boots as an example. So you have this, he's talking about how, a poor man can only ever afford a $10 pair of boots, but they crap out at the end of every winter. Meanwhile, a rich man can afford a pair of $50 boots that last him his entire life. But if you can only ever afford $10, you're going to end up spending $10 every year for 60 years on boots because you can never afford to pay $50 up front. And again, if you're capped out at like the capacity that you can work based on your hourly wage, then you never get the opportunity to buy a home or to like do any of these things, because the rent is so high and so are your food expenses and everything else. So that's the problem we're seeing now too, is that like millennials can't buy houses for the most part. Neither can like Gen Z. I think that the average age that someone like bought a home with boomers compared to millennials, it's like the average age with boomers was like 22 or 24 that they could afford a home, whereas with millennials, it's well into the 30s.
Yeah, I saw something at like 34 the other day, and it was like
right. So you can't at that point say that the problem is because that we can't raise the minimum wage. Like it can't be that, and you also can't say it's because people feel like they need to own a home, because the problem is that even if they want to own a home, they can't qualify. You can't qualify for a home with minimum wage. Period. You can't. So that's already like a non-issue for them. But then the longer you have to rent, more difficult it is to ever own a home.
Sure.
Well, see, and I know when I was in school, which will not apply, I'm sure, to either one of you, 7th grade, we had a class where, they basically told you, go look in the paper. The paper was a thing for anybody that's young. Find a job, a place to live, and a vehicle that you think you could afford, if you were in the workforce now. And I know, I opened the Kalamazoo Gazette because I lived near Kalamazoo, and I could find a truck for like $400, and I could find, a job that paid $10 an hour, and I could find an apartment for like $300 a month.
Yeah.
And I knew I could afford all of that. And I mean, this was 1989. So that's something that, if you would have been in 7th grade, that wasn't anything you could have ever looked at and said, oh yeah, that's doable.
Yeah.
And like a $400 car right now, first of all, there's a car shortage, so you're not finding a $400 car. And then like, unless it's like, you're going to rebuild it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so when you get a crappy car as someone who's only ever owned crappy cars, they end up costing you just as much because you have to get them fixed all the time. And that was like another reason, like I couldn't get ahead for years, was because like, it was probably like every 6 months or so, I'd have like a $500 to $1,500 bill for that. I had my student loan payments on top of that. I had rent due on top of that. I had groceries on top of that. And like, I was somebody who was living very frugally. There was one point where, as an attorney, I was babysitting on the side for a friend so she could give me $40 a week, once a week. Like, that's sad. Like, that's sad to be a young attorney who like literally can't live on their salary. Like, it shouldn't have, like, and that was not even, I wasn't even making minimum wage. I was making $40,000 a year. I was like living in a decent apartment, and like, like I was going, and as my friends were moving away after the bar, like moving out of town, I was going and like taken all of their pantry groceries, whatever they didn't have, I took home with me. And it's like, at that point, it's like, I was still like working at a law firm. It's crazy. I was working at a law firm. I was working at Ann Taylor Loft in the mall. And then I was babysitting like once a week for $40 an hour, or $40 for like 2 hours.
And still getting the reputation that millennials don't work.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like people love that one, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, I say, and where did you live though?
I lived in an apartment. It was $800, but it was previously $400 because I had a partner who was contributing. And once we broke up, like I was stuck in that lease until I could find something else, because if I had broken the lease, I would have had to pay like, you know, however many months rent on the apartment up front in order to break the lease. So it's like, you know, that's the cycle that, you know, people who are making minimum wage and people who live in poverty are confronting. And it doesn't necessarily equate, like how hard you work does not necessarily equate to like you immediately getting a raise, because plenty of employers are going to try and squeeze every ounce of work that they can get out of you for as cheap as possible.
Of course.
And yeah, right, exactly. And so if hard work isn't rewarded, then, and you're working so hard to not make anything, then why fucking bother?
Well,
Why fucking bother at that point? It's like, you know, if we don't want to pay people minimum wage, like, you know, like that's, you know, you're not like, or raise the minimum wage to something that allows us to live. Like, you know, it's just, I just don't think it's right.
I think, you know, we talk about this $15 an hour, right?
Mhm.
It has been going around, as you said, for about 5 years.
Mhm.
Right? It takes 5 years to see this trend kind of come through, because we're looking at McDonald's right now and they're finally offering $15 an hour. So we were talking about getting ready for this, and I said, really, it takes a whole nation
Mm.
to be fed up with this. Like you can't just have one or two
Yeah.
people, and it takes everybody. So I don't stand on my own high horse here, right? But like all my rentals in the area, I have the cheapest rent out of everybody that's around. Why? Because I understand the class I'm bringing in. I understand what I'm doing. I need this, you know, but I bought a duplex. The rents were 300 and 300, right?
Mhm.
I mean, the guy bought it back in the day for, you know, $12,000, you know, and here I am picking it up for 100 grand. You know, on 100 grand, I can't afford to keep you at 300 and 300. I can't make my payment, right? I'm not looking to be a millionaire off of one property. I'm looking to be a millionaire off of 10, 15, 20, whatever it is, right? Like, but I'm not out to gouge, but I understand that, like, even in my area, I have the cheapest. So people always tell me, oh, you can't find them. No, you can find them all the time.
You can. I will say, like, they are there, but they're going, like, they're few and far between. And like, that's why I teach that, like, in terms of like, you got to manifest it.
Yeah.
You got to manifest it. You got to like find people who have done it.
Yep.
You know, it's like, that's the thing, is like, we rarely like, and I say we as like people in general, it is hard for people to like excel past what they've been surrounded by, which is why like systemic oppression is so much worse than anybody realizes, because it's not only like the system that is actively oppressing you. It is that by not being exposed to anybody you personally know who has exceeded past a certain point, just makes it that much more likely for you to stay stuck. Like you have to, and you can't just see it, you have to like believe it. So it's the same thing with the rental market, in the sense that like, are those places out there? Oh yeah, of course. But it's still not the average. It's still not the norm. And like, it shouldn't have to be that way.
Before you chime in, because I know you're going to,
Always.
you're the anomaly. You're the exception to the rule.
Mhm.
And you have to stop approaching this situation as it's out there and it happens, because it doesn't. When you look at just our area in Grand Rapids,
Mhm.
you are by far the cheapest.
Mhm.
Most places are well north for a 2-bedroom of $1,200.
Oh, well north.
And I'll tell you right now, I'm not sure I can afford that right now, and I make really good money.
But I say, I'm going to tell you real quick, truer words have never been said, right? Like, it is, you hit it right on the head. But today we have a property, a friend of mine, right? It's
Yep.
not just me as an anomaly. So it's in Muskegon, right? 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom.
Mhm.
It's a basic apartment. $650 includes all utilities except for trash, which isn't a utility, but like, right.
That's awesome. Link to it in your show.
Actually,
if it's available.
I already have it filled. So
all right, there you go. It's not free anymore.
Yeah. So, well, it's got to get approved and things, so we're right in the middle of it. But so we had it up for, let's say, 2 full weeks before somebody else said, hey, this person would be a great fit. So we're going to go that route. But, there's so many things out there. I'm not the only one. And, and again, I tend to hang out with these types of people versus, big wealthy types of whatever. The hard part about buying so much from my mentor, right? So my mentor teaches me a lot of things. The hard part about buying from him is his money is so damn low, right? When he goes to sell, he's like, hey, I want $1 million for this property, but I'm only bringing in, $900 a month. And I'm like, it's not how this works. Like, you need to be bringing in, like you need to be bringing in 10,000 a month, right? Like, I can't prove, like, you're showing me that this value is $3,000. Like, you're bringing in nothing. The bank's never going to loan it on something they don't see actual money. I have to go in and I have to raise rent. Like, you have to do these things in order to make it so you can buy. If not, I buy land contract, which is why I end up buying land contract from all the time.
So I'm getting text messages from somebody that's watching that can't type on the chat here. So Christy, who I work with, brings up a great point. The cost of daycare and the fact that if you're looking for a place like what you have, it's a full-time job to find those places.
No.
Yes, it is. You have to really sit there and search.
I want to do a full episode on that.
Well, we can do that, but you still have to sit there and really search. I remember when I was looking for apartments, which was, you were probably 8.
Sure.
And it was a full-time job trying to find a decent apartment at a price my wife and I could afford.
And we'll do a whole episode on that because.
And to add that, like, all 3 of us have the benefit of, at least being appearing. Like, I'm a Latina. I don't have any Latina skin. Like, nobody's looking at me and making any judgments. And that's a real thing that people encounter. I think, like, really the takeaway here is, like, you can know what the average is. Like, you can know what the average is. You can know, like, what the landscape, pun intended, looks like across the country. You also cannot allow that to make you think that it's not possible for you to have better and for you to have something more. And, like, whether that's like an apartment you can afford, that's like, just going to be the perfect landlord in the perfect location at the perfect price for you. You can believe that, like, even if the landscape looks terrible, because you're just showing everybody right here, hey, I'm a landlord who does this. Like, not all of us think this way. And so if they can believe that that's out there, then that's something that's going to help people connect with it. That's the real takeaway, is that, like, you can understand, like, what things look like everywhere, while at the same time still believing and finding evidence to show you that you can have something better.
Sure. Well, that's a great point because, I know what you're going to say, so don't even say it.
No.
By the way, I'm Persian, but I get away with being white.
Mexican.
I knew you were going to say it. Screw you. I'm Persian, but I get away with being white.
I would see that.
So I don't really experience anything that, a normal person of color would experience.
Well, and that's, and we talk about that all the time. Like, I have that issue because, again, I was the white kid growing up in a very African-American community, right? Like, I was asked, why are you here? It's never, I'm very self-focused on these types of things because it's just not, to me, I walk up to people all the time. Like, we were talking about it yesterday, my wife, feminism stuff. We were talking about how women, they get told, oh, honey, you should smile. It'll make you look so much prettier.
That.
And I was like, I don't understand this. Like, whatever. So a guy walks through the door, and me being me, I was like, I look at him, I was like, hey man, you should smile more. It'll make you look pretty. Right. Or I was like, hey, you should smile more. It brings your facial feature. And like, it's exactly what I said. My wife goes, oh, I got so uncomfortable by that or whatever. I was like, I'm just proving to you, like, I mean, and that's the problem, is like, because I don't do it, like, I just
you're the exception.
I assume that a million people just don't do this, right? Because to me, like, I will shake anybody's hand, I will talk to anybody. Like, I don't know you, and I just want to get to know you.
Right? My daughter
100%.
You know how many times she's told a day at work that she should smile more?
No.
At least 10.
But I I do tell people they should smile if I see that they're having just an.
There's also a
absolute
different
horrible day.
connotation in how you're communicating it versus how a lot of men do.
Correct.
Because like the one example I remember is I was walking down the street in West Palm and a couple of guys in like a really beat up pickup truck and some guns in the back told me, you should smile more. And you bet your ass I smiled.
So I'd be
Because
smiling.
like the reality is too that like an average man like can take down a woman,
Yeah.
take down the average woman. Like even a small dude can do it because it's just like, and women live in fear of that. Like we've been socialized for it. Like, did you get a talk when you were a teenager how you can't piss off men because they might rape you?
See, and, like,
Because I did. I got that talk, and my sister got that talk, and every woman I know got that talk.
Well, the same talk of,
You have a
when
daughter
you're,
and I have a daughter.
when
so,
you're
I mean,
going to your car at night, you have to sit there and be prepared for somebody to jump you. I've never had that worry in my life.
Really?
If somebody wants to jump me, go for it, because I'll fuck you up.
I-
You're the same way.
Also, you have to consider, like, even though you have been in situations where you were a visual minority, being like a white man, the world and the country has been built for your experience.
Yes.
So there's no way for you to take off like your identity and experience it like someone who is marginalized, because it's just not going to work. It just doesn't work that way. So you having these conversations, you like talking to people, like they're always going to react to you differently. Systems are going to react to you differently than anybody who doesn't look like you.
Right. And I mean, I'm not saying it's right. All I'm saying is the only thing I can do is practice being the change, right? You have to be
Yep.
the change because
Mhm.
I refuse to not call the kettle or to call the kettle black, right? Like
Again, the exception of the rule.
100%.
You and I both honestly are the exception of the rule.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sucks.
And I mean, we both coached girls. We're way more sensitive to their needs.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, we don't like boys. I mean,
Fact.
I've coached girls for 18 years and I tell them all the time, bring me your boyfriend so I can tell them I hate them. And I have no problem doing it.
And we do.
I was at a tournament last year. We brought up a sophomore. Her boyfriend was there. I started asking because I heard the mom say the boyfriend was there. Hey, where's your boyfriend? Bring him to me.
So, yeah.
And I found him and I said, hi, I don't like you. Get out of here. Because I don't.
Does she make bad decisions, his girlfriend?
No, she makes great decisions, but I don't like any of them.
So
Yeah, but that's another issue of like undermining their decision making. Like, because the issue is that like it's not your place to decide who they get to date or if they're good guys or not. It's you want to empower these girls to know that they have a standard and that they have boundaries and they get to enforce them, rather than like the second you start, like it's like with my parents, the second that they didn't like my boyfriend was the second I fell in love with him even more.
And I see where you're coming from. I'm not nearly as harsh as I would be with like my daughter,
yeah.
but I mean, I don't have to be with my daughter. She likes girls.
So,
But they typically take it as a joke. If you can take the ribbing from
Yeah.
me, you're probably okay. If you get offended by me, the girl's going to find out real quick you're not worth the time.
right. Let's say, yeah, we definitely joke around way too much. So,
Is there any other way?
And as long as they know, like if they know it's a joke, then it's like it's a totally different thing. There's obviously a way different relationship with like fathers and daughters than, coaches and daughters. You
Yeah,
get
they-
to be like a male figure that they can, have that respect and like joke around with. And
Yeah,
they
they
know
couldn't care
that
less that
still got
I'm picking on their boyfriends. They just think, coach is being whatever he is.
being silly.
Yeah.
So what do you think millennials need to do to further themselves in their careers or in the things that they want to do?
I would say that honestly, like it comes from being social and like getting to know people. Honestly, like people anytime I tell them that networking is their way to their dream job, people have very visceral reactions. I'll put it that way, because a lot of people, their first thing is like, I don't want to use people. I'm like, it's not using people, it's building relationships with people in the industries that you want to be working in, at the companies you want to be working in. And it's not about like using them, it's about building a connection, and you can help them in the future. Like it's about, that's the investment. It's like an investment of like time and genuineness and, you know, relationships there. You know, I know that there's like, you know, there's a whole bunch of people who like, you know, I don't dream of labor. Like that's not my dream. I don't have a dream job because I don't want to work. Well, I am somebody who loves working. I've always loved working. I love like, I mean, I love helping other people. I've loved like, you know, being a journalist. I've loved being a lawyer. I've had these different lives and I've always loved that. Like I'm somebody where I don't know if I'll ever retire, because I think like, I always feel like if I don't have a goal, I'm going to die. Like that'll be like when God calls me back, is like when I run out of goals.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. But like the way you get ahead now, like these like little things that our parents told us growing up about like, get your foot in the door. That's a lie. That doesn't exist anymore. Neither does like, you know, if you work hard, you'll get a promotion. Probably not. Like, it's just not, especially like if you make yourself invaluable. Invaluable people are not replaceable. You don't ever want to be irreplaceable. And like, you know, you don't get any brownie points for like going above and beyond and like doing more, especially because so many people are out to prove themselves. Because as millennials, it was like, you know, dog eat dog, like in that post 2008 crash market, we're already doing extra already. It's like a lot of us are doing a lot more than we need to be doing. Like one of the best pieces of advice I got at a job was, don't ever turn your work in early, or they'll start a higher caseload rate for you, and then you'll struggle to keep up. And so like I would get all of my work done, but I would wait until the deadlines to turn things in. Like, and so my workload stayed manageable, and there were still times where I stayed late and things like that, but for the most part, like, you know, it worked out for me. So what you need to be doing is meeting people and having conversations. That doesn't necessarily need to mean that like you got to go to stuffy networking events. Those are garbage for the most part, because everybody's there with like the same two goals. It's either people are there for free food or people are there to find a job. So you're not going to have a great experience. The best places are just in casual social settings. So like, you know, when people ask me about like, what events should I go to? I'm like, I don't know. What do you enjoy doing? Go do those things. Like if you go volunteer at the Humane Society, walk dogs or something, you're going to meet somebody else there, and you'll get to talking, and maybe they know of somebody in your field or they work in your field. And now you've got this common interest. And if you don't know people, or it's not like, you know, I mean, I love volunteer events. I also think like, you know, alumni associations are great, but so are just like, you know, social groups. Like if you go on meetup.com and find like, you know, 30 somethings, I don't know, like beer tasting group or whatever, like we go around and try different beers, whatever, stuff like that. That's going to be your best bet. But like, you know, I know all the introverts are screaming because I am one as well. So what I've done is like, I've literally found people either on company or organization websites, and like found somebody where they had something in common with me, or I could like find something out about them professionally that I was like, this is really interesting. This is somebody who's taken a similar path to what I want to take. Or, you know, they've came from this part of the country and moved here for this job. And that's somebody where I'm going to reach out to them. Like I'll send them an email. And like, I will say it's like a 50-50 response rate. Okay. Like plenty of people are not going to respond. But when you ask somebody and you just kind of say like, I found you researching this kind of organization or industry or whatever. I hope you don't mind that I reached out. I'm so-and-so. I'm looking to transition from this to this. That's my magic buzzword, because the word job, that just like puts people's walls up. So I'm looking to transition from this to this. You know, I noticed this about you. Would you be willing to jump on a call with me for 10 minutes? You know, and if they're local, I always say, take them to get a cup of coffee, because like, you know, a $5 latte, if it gets you like a 6-figure job, it's paid for itself like plenty times. So, yeah. You know, it's like, get on a call with them and just like, you know, just talk to them about what your goals are, and like ask them questions about them. Like, you know, just what do they love about their career? What do they love about their industry? What do they know? And like the way I teach it is like find the job openings that you want and then go find people on staff to build that relationship with first before you ever bring up the job. Because a lot of the jobs aren't even open and you don't know that because you're not on the inside. So, you know, you meet them, you ask them all your questions and you ask them if they know anybody else you should talk to, which is always key because if you can get a personal introduction to somebody else, then your response rate goes from like 50-50 to like 100%. So you build your network that way, send a nice handwritten thank you note, and then once that's over, like you've had that little back and forth, then you can basically say, like send a quick email and say, hey, I noticed that you guys have this job opening. Do you know anything about it? And that's when you find out either, oh, we're transferring someone from another department, or, you know, oh, we're not really that's an old job that we haven't taken down. That's when you get the inside info. Or, you know, they're like, oh yeah, we are actually hiring. Oh yeah, you would be a great fit for that. You know, and then you're like, can I send you my materials to pass them along? And even if they can't, like, they're like, oh, you got to apply through the portal or like through Indeed or whatever. Then you say like, can I use your name on my cover letter? And then you get to start your cover letter out saying, I'm writing at the recommendation of so-and-so. And that goes a long way. Like, but you have to have like the bigger goal. Sure. First of all, don't wait until you hate your job to do this, because the more desperate you are, the lower your standards will get. So like, you know, I like to tell people, like, if you are just starting to like feel like you don't like your job, that's when you start. You want to start as soon as you can, because like you can always say no to a job opportunity, but you can't go back in time and apply. Right. So yeah.
Thoughts. And maybe one of them's not a good thought, but I have two thoughts. So one, we have a networking event tomorrow.
We do.
At a brewery, because we like to drink.
We do.
And I'm making him go because I don't want to talk to people. And he's happy to talk to people.
Yeah.
So we'll go network, and Nick's the extrovert, so he'll talk to everybody. And I'll just sit there and hand out, you know, Bucks and Brew shit.
Yeah.
Because literally all we're doing is, hey, we have a podcast that's about beer and money. Check us out.
Yep.
That's perfect. That's like the perfect kind of thing for that. Yeah, that's a great example.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm watching it live a couple of weeks ago, and you had brought up a story where you were talking, you know, to somebody about a job, and they didn't recommend you for it because they just already knew it just didn't pay enough.
Mm-hmm.
Am I remembering that correctly?
Yep. That was like the result of one of my networking things. I had like seen a job opening. I was like, oh my God, my exact background. Wow, at an organization I would love to work for. Wow, and the guy who's like in charge of it, like I love him, like he's fantastic, like I'd done all my research. And when I finally like asked him about it, which I waited, you know, had the coffee, hang out, you know, we did that. And then like he introduced me to some people, so we had that communication. I sent him the little thank you note. He was like, thank you for the thank you note. And I was like, hey, I saw you guys are hiring. You know, do you have any info on it? And at that point I realized it was just him and one other person. Was a brand new nonprofit. And he said like, yeah, I thought about asking you about it, but like I knew based on what you were getting paid now and what you were looking to make, like, yeah, it wasn't going to be appropriate, for me to. And that saved me so much time. And the guy was like a great contact. I like stayed in touch with him plenty. Like, you know, the person he introduced me to was a friend of his from law school. She forwarded my resume over when they had a job opening. So it's like, it still paid off. But like, sometimes you have to look at the wins, not just as the cut and dried, like, oh, I met this person and they got me a job. Because that's the wrong outlook to have. That's like the, you know, it's in terms of like manifestation. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but there's this idea that like, you have to like loosely hang on to what you want, because the more you stress about it, the more you think about it, you create pressure, and it's like harder for you to connect with it because now you're in a different energy. You're just like kind of panicked. And so it's that kind of mentality where if your ultimate goal is like, you independently know, I'm looking for a job that has these kind of duties and it pays me this much and it comes with these benefits. If you know all of those things independently, and you go about your networking journey, like your longer term job hunt networking opportunity, it's going to find its way to you when you celebrate the small wins. Like, I didn't waste my time on a job application. This person introduced me to 3 more people. Like all of that insider info, or like sometimes, you know, I found out from one of these networking dates, they were like, do you check, are you on such and such like listserv? I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, there's jobs on there all the time. Then they're like, are you on like, go join this organization? They have their own private jobs boards, right? Like I got all of that inside info from networking, which I wouldn't have known about otherwise.
Yeah. And that's, you know, I mean, I do it in real estate, right? So, you know, when I first started, I didn't know anything. And I, you know, kind of posted out, hey, this is what I do. Ended up getting a mentor pretty soon, right? You know, I always try to figure out how to find money, stuff like that. So, you know, I listen to podcasts and then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, this person has the same type of a mindset that I like. And I search for them. Hey, would you want to meet up and get coffee? I'm not a big player in the game, but I'm bigger than some people, right? And so like, you know, halftime people are like, oh, I want to meet you. And I'm like, no, like you're my interest, right? And so then you just find that type of a thing out. You know, and recently I just made a new best friend. I mean, literally like instant connection of like being best friends. Guy out of New York, very, very wealthy, right? And he's like, dude, if you ever want to do a deal, like we'll either a partner, or I'll just give you the money and, you know, you'll pay smaller than what you would for what I'm normally borrowing. So if I'm borrowing at 10%, he's like, yeah, I'll just give it to you like 8%. Like, but I've built this relationship and I got it through building these other relationships like along the way of like, and then getting to the one guy who happened to know this guy, right? And it's like, holy crap. And like, not because he's money, he's one of my best friends. Like just, it's so weird because we talk so much about our families and other things. And then it's like, oh, hey, what's going on with our real estate stuff? Wait, we should probably get back to
right.
Like, that's the real business. And it's like,
and that's like, you bring up a great point, which is that like people want to work with people they like. Yes. Like half the time people get hired because like, oh, we get along really well and like we have fun and like, and you're also like qualified for the job. So if they can, like I always have whenever I network, and I've even done it on job applications, I have a 1 line at the bottom of my interests and they've got like, you know, little dots between them. So they just stay on 1 line. And I'm like ruthlessly authentic on there. I've had like when at like one of my jobs I applied to, I was like, reading tarot cards. I don't care. Or like astrology. Like I put my weird shit on there. And without fail, every single job I've gotten, they ask me about my interests in the interview. Like every time. And it's because people want to work with people they like. And it's like, and if you can be qualified for the job and you guys have things in common, why wouldn't they pick you over somebody who can just do the job?
Yeah.
So I'm going to interrupt you here for a minute.
Sure.
So Ummer joined us.
Hello.
For the first time in studio. We have not seen Ummer in quite a while.
It's been a bit.
Since, I think, years? Well, I don't think it's been years, but it was definitely before the last baby was born.
No.
Yeah.
And so, Jesse, you probably have no idea where we came from. So I'm just going to back us up a little bit here. So when the pandemic hit, Nick and I got sad because him and I used to get together and talk about money,
Mm-hmm.
you know, once a month, once every couple of weeks, whatever. And then we weren't allowed to get together anymore and we got bored.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing to do. So I'm like, hey, you want to just hop on Zoom and we'll talk about money? And I put something out on Facebook. I'm like, hey, anybody want to talk about money? And Ummer joined us. I work with Ummer at a local healthcare company here. And he hopped on and I think we talked for like 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of evolved into this. So Ummer joins us every once in a while. He came to an event we had at the Business for Toys for Tots the other day, and I showed him the podcasting room, and I saved this for you. I got a message from him like right before we went on air that said, hey, I might swing by tonight. So here he is.
There we go.
Awesome. Wow. I mean, this is my first time meeting you, so welcome.
Let's say. Yeah, we you know, when I look at networking, I mean, because I'm not great at written skills, right? Verbal is my number one key.
That's a fact.
And I really getting to know other people. You know, I grew up very, very, you know, they say that your net worth or your success is the 5 people that are around you, right? So, if you're in a gang, if your 5 friends are in a gang, there's a very good chance you're going to be in a gang. If you're, a CEO of a company, there's chances that your 5 friends are higher up in their companies, right? I mean, so everything that you hang around with is a representation of you, right? And your closest 5. So, I don't search that type of stuff out, but like, I mean, just as much, like, I do not do business with shady people. I don't do business with, greedy, like people that are out. I mean, the reason I'm not as successful as I am is because I'm a very specific person. Like
You're choosy.
I won't do business with crappy people in this world, right? I've gotten scammed, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't know, but like, I'm not going to get no partnership with you if you're literally just there for the money, right? I mean, don't ever tell my tenants I actually care about them, but like, right, like you have to care, right? Like you have to be there for that. Like if I tell you, hey, for the 4th of July, I get my tenants a gift, right? And you just go, why would you spend money on them? Awesome. It was great meeting you. This was a good conversation. Thanks for your knowledge. Like, we do not fit, right? Like, it's not you, it's me. Like, I don't share your same type of a thing. Back in the day, if you weren't into bowling, I wasn't talking to you. I have no idea how I met my wife, but like, no, you're like, right. If you don't share that same passion that I have, it's just, we're going to run out of things to talk about after about 20 seconds, right?
My wife used to complain that I turned every conversation we had into softball.
Yeah.
But that's been such a big part of my life because my daughter played softball. I coached her, and that's just what you talk about.
Yep.
So, I mean, they would be sitting there going, hey, I'm going to paint my house tomorrow. You want to come help? And I'm like, hey, I got softball practice. Let's talk about softball right now because I don't really care about painting.
Yeah.
And that's just where it came from. Now, I'm going to ask Umar.
Yeah.
Are you a millennial?
I don't think so.
Okay.
How old are you?
When were you
Based
born?
on when I was born, I could be considered a millennial.
So you were
Well,
born
then, yeah,
early
you
80s.
are. There's no like, oh, I don't identify. If you're born in there, you're a
So you're a
millennial.
millennial.
I
knew you were younger than me, but I wasn't sure where you fell in the me
How
and
much
Nick
younger?
range.
I think 1980 is when it starts. So if you're 80 and then I think it's 80 to 95 or 96.
think it's
when
81 to
maybe
96.
According to Jessica, it's 81 to 96 because she's adamant that she is a millennial,
Yeah.
and I'm going to defer to her because I don't really know.
Yeah, so she
Which
probably
means my
Googled it.
daughter is too, I guess.
She Googled it.
Now,
Google knows everything.
I'm a very, young father, I guess.
You are. It happened. You had her
My-
when she was 3.
I'm 44 and my daughter's 26. You're 32
3 now. Yeah.
and your daughter's 6.
6. Yeah. I'm old.
Umar's
36,
and your oldest son is
3.
so.
Yeah.
Just because I like to go off on tangents here, I've got a couple of the greatest texts ever the last couple of days.
Yeah.
So Umar came to the Toys for Tots events that we ran at Break Room Therapy the other day. And I get a text from him on Sunday. My son wants to know if we're going to see Star Wars today.
Yes.
And then I got a text from him, I think yesterday, going, my son wants to know if we're going to see Star Wars today.
And and
And not the movie,
So-
just the characters.
Yeah.
Just the characters. Yes.
we talk about, we go back to this whole networking thing and why it's important to find other people's things. But like, when I look at people that dress up in Star Wars, right? I would just assume they're homeless bums and broke.
I am
But like,
not a homeless bum or bro.
but like most of the people in your groups are literally like really successful,
Very
doing
successful
great things.
people, yes.
Like on, so when you think of people that sail on, because I sail in sailboats, and come to find out like 90% of them literally own businesses, are stupid, filthy rich. And then like I sail with a doctor. I say it like, well, he's a foot doctor. We make sure to let him know that he's not a real doctor. It's like a dentist.
Yep.
But like, and you find like these groups of people really like in everything, like if you're involved in something, a lot of charity things, it's usually the more successful people that get
Correct.
involved in these types of things.
Yeah, because we want to give back.
Yeah.
We really do enjoy giving back. And, being the only Gen Xer here, I'm going to say, it wasn't important during school. We didn't have the community requirements that a lot of you guys might have had. But as we got older, we realized, hey, you need to give back a little bit here. People are, struggling and you need to help. And that's just, something that, again, Gen X kind of missed all of the, hey, your generation sucks.
Yeah.
The boomers, we were always railing on because they sucked. And millennials, the boomers were railing on because they suck.
Yeah.
And we were just sitting there in the middle going, everybody sucks.
And
honestly, you know, if you have to look at it, I like boomers. I like Gen Z. I like Gen Z. I like millennials. I hate boomers.
Yeah. And I don't mind anybody. I hang out with a lot of older people.
Yeah, but
I
they're
think
my
it's
age.
also like that, you know, it's a lot of people will talk about boomers being like, you know, a narcissistic generation, you know, but you have to like look at, they lived through essentially like the antithesis of like what millennials went through, which was like booming economies. And like, yeah, they had, you know, like the 1989 stock market crash, like, or 87, I think, 87, yeah. So you still had like, you know, Black Tuesday and whatever, but the narrative was different. And everything around culture at that time was around American exceptionalism, and it was around individuality and the success of like the, you know, the individual is what it was about. So of course they have a different way of thinking. They think about themselves because that's what they were conditioned to do. Whereas, you know, millennials knew that it was like, I mean, I don't think I know any millennials who like don't have like a fierce, like, you know, tight knit group for the most part of people that they know, like, oh, they'd give the shirt off their back for me. And I think that's why you see like a lot of younger people swaying more toward the left, is because they've had to live through that. They've had to live through like, you know, helping out your neighbor and like, you know, being like there for them in a very real way. You know, and, you know, you had said something earlier about, you know, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And something I always like to tell people, because not everybody like has that like has like a group of friends who's like where they want to be, right? Like, you know, and I say like, you don't have to dump your friends if they're not like as successful as you want to be, but the way you have to counteract that is like, you have to look at your biggest influences. And so it may not be in a friend, like, you know, maybe you've got like a friend who's someone from childhood and maybe they're like kind of a mess, but at this point they're basically a sibling. You're not getting rid of them. You know, what you need to be doing is like counteracting it with like the inspiring stories, where it's like, you know, podcasts where you can like tune in. You know, I don't know if you've seen that meme where it's like what it feels like listening to a podcast, and it's like a kid with an ice cream sitting in front of like the ice cream box where it's like kids with ice cream. It's like those, when you listen to podcasts all the time and these people start to feel like friends because you listen to them so often and you hear their stories, you hear how they talk about things, or even like a TV show that you find inspirational where everything is fake, it doesn't matter, but the people feel like so like you relate to them so much and they inspire you in a really big way. Like that's one of your influences right there. It's like the more time you spend in that space of being inspired is the more that you start to believe it's possible for you. And like, if those people look like you, even better. If they have a similar background to you, even better. Like the more you see yourself in another person who has what you want, like the more that your brain will subconsciously start to register, oh, I can have that too. Oh, it's possible for me too. So it's like, it doesn't matter where you are physically or who's around you physically. You need to look at like, what am I putting like into my eyes and into my ears that's going to set me up for the level of success that I want?
Well, I think one of the things we've kind of walked around but haven't really hit on is, I think my generation is the last one that actually believed in the American dream. Because after Gen X, it just didn't really exist anymore. And I'm going to throw that all on Reagan and his bullshit because I don't like it.
Here for it.
And all he did was come in and say, yeah, we're not going to tax anybody at the rates we used to tax. We're just going to lower all of that. And we don't really care about Social Security because that's not anything I'm going to have to worry about because I'm an old man and who gives a shit. So we're going to basically rob from Social Security as much as we can. And hey, gay people are getting AIDS. I don't give a fuck about gay people, so screw them. He was very singularly focused He cared about rich white people, and he pushed that agenda. And at the time, we were a nation that went, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's go for that. And then, you know, my generation started getting older, going, this is bullshit. What the hell happened? But again, I think, Jesse, you said it in your initial TikTok with BuzzFeed. Gen X is just tired and they don't want to fight this shit anymore. And we just kind of, whatever.
Yeah, that's like, I'm already fucked, so what am I gonna do about it, you know? And like really hoping for millennials and Gen Z to kind of fix it.
Yeah.
Even if a lot of Gen X agrees with it, it's just like, you've been doing it for so long, you've been putting up with the bullshit for so long. At this point, you're not as far from retirement as you were. So it's like, well, fuck it. It's either gonna get better or it's not. I'm not gonna, you know, hope either way. But I feel like millennials, like, were disillusioned with this idea of the American dream almost immediately, where it was like, and I see it a lot where so many of my clients are like between the ages of like 28 and like 32, 33, like so many of them. And like, I hear the same thing from everybody. I did the things. I went to school, I got the good job, I got the degree, I did what I was supposed to do, and I'm fucking miserable. And I'm broke. Like, I don't have any of it. I don't have the paycheck to make it worth it. And I definitely don't have the joy. And so then it becomes like, okay, well, how can I get at least one of those? And, you know, my thing is, I'm teaching people you can have it both. You can have both, but you're going to have to be willing to think outside the box and do things that you haven't done before. So if you want to stay in traditional employment, you have to be willing to like talk to people and network. And even if you're like an introvert, you can network online. Like, you can email people, but you know, how many people are in like Reddit communities where it's like, you're in there talking about your favorite show every week. And then like, you know, some will say some offhanded comment about like, you know, being a software developer or something. And it's like, that's your in right there. If you want to do that, there you go. Oh, hey, I realize this isn't on topic. Can we chat? There's so many Reddit communities dedicated to like actual careers and jobs, and you know, like not even for networking purposes, but for like, you know, sharing ideas and, you know, talking about their pay to see like, oh, am I being compensated fairly, or like, what's your job like, whatever, you know, or even connecting with students. Same on Facebook. It's like I'm actually like in the midst of doing a series on like networking on social media. Like, what does that look like? So Facebook is still throwing ad money at groups. Like every so often I'll see a commercial for Facebook groups on Hulu. And so if they're still advertising it, then that means that it's still a priority, which means they're still active. And like, you can absolutely like find an industry group that's active, like on Facebook, where they're willing to give advice, they're willing to help out, like, you know, they're willing to talk about things. Like, you know, I'm in one and I'm not even a practicing lawyer anymore, but there's one I'm in called like Ms. Esquire. And it's literally just female attorneys in the US. That's it. And so many people go on there and they're like, you know, I hate my area of law. Like, what area of law do you practice? Do you love it? Do you hate it? And then they're in the comments, can I talk to you more? Can I get on a call? You know, like, you can easily do that, you know, before you ever get to the point of like, oh, I'm going to email strangers. Like, there are other ways to do it too. Even like Instagram. This is a video I'm putting up later. I was just filming it, where it's like, you just search, like, you just got to like be curious and search different things. So it's like, I just recorded my screen doing a few different experiments where I was like, all right, type in lawyer. Let me look for accounts where like people are in different, they'll usually put on their profile what they do. Or like, let me put in, at one point I did like sales, like, okay. And then you find like some people talking about sales. Oh, these are mostly coaches. That's not really what I want. And it's like, then I put in like, you know, I don't even live in Nashville, but I put like jobs Nashville just to see what came up. And there were so many local companies that like put their jobs on, like, we're hiring, you know, and it's like, there's so many ways that you can network. And then like, if a company puts that up, oh, you can go to the company page, scroll through their posts or their pictures with employees, tap on the picture, who's tagged in it. Then look at those people. Do you have anything in common with them? Like, you don't have to do it one way. There's no one road to success. You just have to be willing to see things a little bit differently and to step outside your comfort zone, even the littlest bit.
So I got a couple comments.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting text messages. Umar will know who this is from. So, coworker, my degree is in creative writing. I like my job because of me and the flexibility, and because we have stuff in common. Which, mind you, we have stuff in common because I said, hey, you should watch Star Wars. Just saying. And then her next comment was, we were told we would never be able to achieve more than our parents, so why bother being in a miserable job just to succeed? And, she's got a good point there. Christy has told me several times, she really went through school the right way. So there was an option to lock in her school rate at one specific price. And they did that when she was a freshman.
Sure.
So she paid way less for school than most people that she went to school with. And she went and she got a creative writing degree, which is worth damn near nothing. But she got into the legal department at our company. And now she works, fully with me. And, I literally taken her under my wing and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. And, because I'm 10, 12 years older, she's latched on to everything I said and become a great asset to the company. Whether they know it or not, I have no idea. But I know it. And, like this summer when I tried to die, she kept us afloat.
Yeah.
And my boss knows that without her, we'd be totally screwed. And if I would have died, she would have been able to, pick things up and just kind of, it would have been tough, but she would have been able to go on.
Say way to replace yourself.
Yeah.
Say.
I know one person that, thought I hoarded my knowledge to create job security. Which Umar knows that person too. I'm just saying.
But there's a point where you have to, right? So one of my favorite stories out there is, the ship captain can't get his motor going. He hires like 5 people and they can't figure it out. And so he calls this, 80-year-old guy and gets in. Guy walks in, fixes it within 2 seconds, hands him a bill. It's $10,000. And he goes, well, I'm going to need an itemized list. You were here for 2 seconds. And he writes down, $2 for hammer hit and, $9,980, $8 for knowing where to hit. Right. And it was just like knowing the knowledge. And, that's the biggest key is understanding that, like, it took me a long time and I'm still very young and I still don't know my worth, right? Like I'm the first to admit that. Like I've never seen that amount of money, because to me right now, the knowledge that keeps coming every day, every week, every month, whatever it is, like I really could see myself at least getting into $100 million, right? Like it's very feasible for me. Like, now, I think the older people get, the more they get beat down, things like that. And trust me, like we talk about it all the time. Like I think about selling everything. I go through lows, but then you have your high times and you're like, there's just no end in sight. Like I can go open these businesses, do like, and my brain just works different than people, right? So, and you were saying it, like you could work a job and if you work 24 hours in a day, you're very maxed out on what you can do. Right now, it's like you have to hire, virtual assistants to get you to the next level, and you have to do things like, and it takes me a long time to actually learn that, right? Like I can't pass off things. And when I got a little bit more money, I started passing off some work to people, right? I'm like, hey, go take care of this broken window because I'm done. And I got to sit there and finish my $90 steak with my wife. And I'm just going, God, that was worth every penny. I didn't stress about being there. Like I didn't like, normally I'll be at dinner and I'll be like, I gotta go. Right. And because that's just who I am. And I learned I don't need to jump at every second. And it took me 10 years of this stupid game to finally understand that, like, I can go on vacation. I need to leave. I don't need to be the number one on a constant. Like I still need to hold myself to a high standard, but I can rely on other people in this world. I'm not used to that. Because I've been self-made. And by that, I really mean self, like every damn aspect of it. Like self.
Yeah, but that's a lot of us. We sit there and,
Yep.
and we won't pass anything off because we know what's coming.
Yep.
So, I mean, with my job before I got Christy, I had a very nice lady that used to work with me, and she was 25 years my elder. And I do a technical job, and she just wasn't good at it.
Yeah.
But she was the nicest lady, and you couldn't get mad at her because she was just so damn nice.
She brought you cookies.
But I had to sit there and basically do her job and my job, which is why everybody thought that I sucked at everything, because I was doing the job of two people.
Yeah.
And now that I have somebody that, actually could grasp what I was talking about, I don't have to do the job of two people anymore. And if I'm out for a week, nobody cares because nothing gets lost.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a saying like among entrepreneurs, like hire slow, fire fast. I think that that's like some advice a lot of people could hear. What's interesting too is, Nick, you were talking about like, oh, I could easily see myself like making 100 million, which is totally possible. Yeah. But what I like to remind people is that you don't like your ambition's going to look different than anybody else's, right? Like it's, for me, like I've had times in my business where it's like, I'm not the richest business consultant out there. I'm not the richest job hunt coach. I'm not the richest life coach. Far from it. Like, I make decent money now and I feel good about the time I spent, but my goal was never just to be a coach. Like it wasn't just to be like a millionaire coach and like I teach people and like that's what it is. Like for me, my dreams have always been much bigger, where it's like, I want to write a best-selling book. I want to like do speaking tours. I want to help people with doing more free information. I want to like get more stuff and reach more people. I want to be an advocate. I want to have a platform. Like those are the things that I have wanted. But when I first started my business, like, and I was like making nothing, I sat down and I asked myself, well, what do I even consider a successful business? And I said, well, for me, and this is like, probably like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I said, well, it would mean that I'm free to work from home, like work from wherever I want. Like I can travel or I can work at home. Doesn't matter. I'm like location independent. 2, I don't have anyone telling me what to do. I get to call all my shots. I'm the one who decides, everything that I do. And 3, I determine my own pay. I'm not having to ask somebody for a raise. I'm not asking somebody to like increase my rates. And I took a moment, and this was a month where I'd made nothing. Okay. And I like took a moment. I said, right now with $0 in sales, I have all 3 of those things. And then I had this moment where I was like, I run a successful business. By my own terms, I run a successful business because I have all 3 of those things right now. Of course, like my goals changed and evolved, but like you get to decide what success looks like. So if success for you is like, oh, I make enough money to like go on a vacation twice a year with my family and like put aside some money for retirement, put aside some money for my kids. And like, I never have to like say no to myself when I go to dinner. Like I don't have to choose the smaller entree. Then that's, you don't need to let other people pressure you to want more. Just like if you want more, you don't have to pressure yourself to be less, right? It works in both directions. Like me, like I'm not poo-pooing coaches who just want to be coaches and want to be millionaire coaches. And like, they want high ticket clients and that's it. They just want to like be that, because like, that's not my goal. And so for me in those moments where I've been like, oh, I'm not making like what these people are making, I'm like, but that's not your goal. Your goal is a worldwide stage and it takes longer to get there and it's going to look different. Like if all you wanted was the money, then you could have that, but that's not the goal. So that's a thing I always try to keep in mind. And then, like what you said about outsourcing is so true, but I see that mostly when people plateau. Like that's always the problem I see with entrepreneurs who can't seem to like, oh, I've been like at this certain income level for so long. I don't know what it is. I just can't seem to break through. It's either you don't take breaks or you're doing too much. Like you need to outsource something. And, it's always a stretch. It always feels uncomfortable when you have to hire help or you have to do something, or maybe you like literally don't even have the budget. And I say like trade with people if you can. Like if you really can't afford it and you really need help, like And, I use this example with, like women especially. It's like, if you can like trade with a friend where it's like, you hate to cook, I hate to clean my floors. So how about like you clean my floors once a week and I'll like make you a few dinners for the week, something like that. Like that's like now you don't have to worry about your disgusting floors anymore. Like you just like got a whole big thing off your chest. Or like, with kids, like, can you take my kids one day and I'll take your kids another day? And so that way we both each get a full day where we just get to focus on business or our job or whatever. You can do that, and then what it does is it shows you, I can expand, I can outsource, I can get the support that I need. So when you are at a point where you can invest in that, whether it's like, okay, I'm going to hire a virtual assistant, or I'm going to hire a cleaning person, I should say, hire a cleaner, whichever one you do, like it becomes easier to make that kind of jump. And like without fail, every time, like people always make the money back, because it's like you have to take a little bit of risk sometime.
Oh yeah. I say a couple things. But one of my friends, you were talking about taking the kid once a week or whatever. A friend of mine who's another TikTok influencer, he's got quite a few followers, Ripple in Time. He came out with a video and he's like, I think there should be a thing where, once a week, everybody should have to take the other people's kids. So that way everybody, like, he called it like guardian angel or something. He's like, hey, open it up so that way you take the kids so these people can just get out and go just to dinner, or do whatever they want just for that one night, or once a month type thing. Like, and he worded a heck of a lot better in his little TikTok thing, and I thought it was great. Steve, he just I bank with him because of him. I walked into the bank and this guy comes up to me and he goes, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And I'm like, honestly, like I'm I'm at the bank because when I'm in business mode, I'm kind of more of a dick, because like I'm just there to like get this done because I have other things to do. I'm like, and he's like talking. I was like, "Where's Steve?" Right? And he's like, "Oh, I took over for Steve." And I was like, well, let me text him real quick, because like this isn't how this is going to be. Like I'm now going to take all my money out because I'm going to go find Steve. Right? Like I don't have time. I don't have time for this. And but no, like I like the idea of trading. Like I do it all the time. Hey, I need flooring done. Oh, hey, what, I need to find a house. Okay, great. Like here, I have these 15 people that can help you.
So we did an episode about a year ago.
Yeah.
Talking literally just about beer.
Yes.
And the three of us browbeat Lawrence.
Yes.
Because Lawrence does not literally pay any attention to his investments.
None.
And I remember Ummer specifically was going, "Lawrence, just give me your investments. I'll do it for you. I don't need anything for it. Just let me play with it."
Yeah.
And I mean, that kind of goes to the fact of, at the end of the day, we just want to help. We just want to make things better for, whoever's around us. I've said this a million times. I don't celebrate anything for anybody else that they do that has anything to do with what I do. So, if a coach gets a win, I'm not excited for them. Screw them. I'm better than them, whatever.
Yep.
But, like I have a friend that came to me a couple of days ago and said, "Hey, I hit my number for retirement." And I was so excited for them. I'm not going to say who it was, but I was so excited for them. And I'm like, that is awesome.
I have a friend, we bowl together, older guy. He's probably your age. We drink bourbon together and stuff like that. But he, he comes to me and he's like, "I just sat with my financial advisor and I hit the big 7-digit mark." And I was like, "Dude, I am so freaking happy." Like
we celebrate those
big old
things.
bear hug. I was like, "This is amazing." And then, not too long ago, he's like, "Hey, just let you know, I lost this amount of weight." And I was like, "That is huge." Right? Like it just, things I know that I struggle with, or again, financials, like I'm going to celebrate every personal victory you have, right? Unless it's against me. Right. So, I think to me, like people forget to celebrate those victories. Right. And, and the problem is as a millennial, right, we're just known to go out and drink craft beers, right? Oh, they're just spending all their money on craft beers. No, like, oh, millennials live at home with their parents longer than anybody. Well, yeah, because they're the brokest of anybody right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, what do you want us to do? You get the, hey, kids aren't kids aren't going out and mowing people's lawns. And I'm like, yes, but generations before it was safe to go knock on somebody's door, right? And ask them, hey, can I mow? Now, like, there's everybody has taught so much. There's predators out there. Like, why would you even think about going to, knock on a door and mow lawns? Like, I moved
to be clear, like it was probably just as dangerous back then. It's just that no one was talking about it and no one was getting therapy for it. So
right. Say,
like, there were just as many perverts back then. Like, something crazy I read, this is off topic, but I have to insert it because it blew my mind. And I can't remember where I read it, but it was years ago that like Freud's entire theory about penis envy, like women wishing they had penises and like Oedipus Rex and stuff, was because he had so many interviews conducted with young women where they had said that their father and uncle had molested them or raped them, that he thought that it was so many that they must have been making it up, and came up with a theory to basically explain it.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that, it's so fucked up. When I read that, I was like, like, I think I read it in a textbook or something, but yeah, like, it's like, it was very common. Like, it's always been very common. And it's just that now we're more aware. And now we know the things. It's like, who's gonna be the most dangerous is like somebody that a kid trusts and knows, right? So it's like, yeah, I don't want you knocking on neighbors' doors. I don't know why they live here. Like,
Right. Well, it's like, when I was in school, they always talked during the assembly, like when you had to go sell, they're like, don't go door to door. But they're like, we want you to sell the most to be the winner. And I'm like, how the hell am I going to win?
So which one do you want me to do? Yeah.
My family is broke as shit. So like, I was the kid knocking door to door, right?
I was too. Yeah.
Like 100%. And, one of my favorite jokes is, the house that buys the most is the one that has the no soliciting sign. Right, because they didn't want to buy the sign in the first place, right?
Oh my God.
That's why they put it out there. It's like, as a kid, like I knocked on every door. I mean, I didn't care who you are. You were buying candy, right? Like I wasn't leaving, and so I became a very decent salesman.
It's so funny you say that, because like my mom loves to tell this story about me. But when I was in Girl Scouts for a very brief time, like it was not great with the group work situation like that. So. And I didn't sell the most cookies, but we would like get our portion sold, right? Because they give you way too many boxes. And my mom loves to tell the story about how I went up to some woman's door and she was like, oh, honey, I'm sorry. She was like, I'm on a diet. I can't buy Girl Scout cookies. And I said, well, we have low fat lemon pastries.
Yeah. And that's like, you get it, you learn it, right? And that's actually one thing. So my daughter's in first grade now, and I give feedback because like as a parent, I will walk door to door with her and stand on the sidewalk while she does it. Like they won't do sales. Like they send home envelopes that are like, hey, donate, because so many parents have asked just to give money instead of doing fundraisers. And I'm like, you've taken out such a good life lesson. Like, these kids need to learn to interact with people. They need to learn to get out there. Like, I get that you're an introvert or whatever, but you still need to understand there's social environments. There's things in your life if you're going to become an employee, unless you're stupid rich as a kid, like from something, like you have to get out there and do this. Like, and the school's like, yeah, but so many people. And I'm like, I don't care about so many people, right? They're called 1%ers for a reason, right? Because 1% does it.
I'm telling you right now, that was my generation.
Yeah.
Our parents were like, yeah, I'm not selling this shit. And I'm not asking my kid to go sell this shit. I'll just, whatever. Here's some money. Go away.
And it bugs me so much. And like,
what doesn't bug you?
Beer.
I like beer.
Yeah, see, I'm so, but no, I get so frustrated about it. I do.
Yeah, I get it too. Yeah.
Not even just being an extrovert. Like it's the life skills that bugs me, right? You're stopping an important life skill that should happen, right?
Yeah. My dad is like, my dad was really good about that, because like he's very like you guys would probably love him. He's almost like a parody of himself. He's like an old like a former New York cop, so very thick New York accent, handlebar mustache, all of it. Okay, it's like if he were literally any more of a stereotype, it would literally just be like a Family Guy character.
Yes.
So he was very like, there was no room for shyness. Okay. It was like, with me, like I was very shy as a kid, or at least I was when I was little. I was the first kid in a generation. So it was like me for a long time until my sister came along. I didn't have cousins. I didn't have any of that yet. And so I remember being probably about like, 5 years old or something. And we didn't go out to eat often. It was because we were like, 3 hours away from home or something. And so we went out to eat, and I asked my dad, what time is it? And he didn't have a watch because, it's pre-cell phones. And I said, go ask that guy who had a watch like in the waiting area. And I said, oh, never mind. And he said, no, now you need to go ask that man what time it is. And I was like, I don't want to. And he was like, you just have to go up. You just say, excuse me, sir, do you have the time? And I was like, oh, and like, then it was like, you went on and go say it. So then I finally went over and was like, excuse me, sir, do you have the time? And then he told me, and I came back and my dad was like, see, it's not that bad. It's okay. Like, it was just like he was always teaching me to confront situations. It's like, I had an issue with a teacher once when I was like in the 5th grade, it was like the library teacher or something. So he was like, write a letter. I was in the 7th grade. He was like, you don't want to confront her face to face, write her a letter and leave it with her. So it was like, he helped me with that. It's like, my dad did a lot of things wrong, but when it came to like, you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to like confront people. You have to stand up for yourself. Like all of those things. Like, I'm grateful that he did that, because like, yeah, I was very shy, and I would have stayed that way had he not kind of forced me out to do those things.
Yeah. And I say, and look where you are now, right? Like all the small lessons that you learn along the way.
Still an introvert, but one that is very chatty. So
which surprises me with the amount of TikToks and everything that you do, that you're an introvert.
Well, see, the TikToks, nobody's talking to me. Like, I'm doing it myself. I'm alone in my house doing it. This kind of thing, it's like, this is great. And then I'm going to be tired for the next few days. Like, I'll be like, offline for a bit. Like and I'm a regular, like, I do talk to so many people. Like I do my calls, like I only do calls noon until 6 or 7. And it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That's it. It's just that, because I can't handle more than that. After that, it's like, and on those days when I have like calls back to back all day, and my friends try to call me, I'm just texting them, and I'm like, I got no spoons today. We're texting. That's it. I'm like, I'm not talking. So it's like, I have to recharge my batteries by being alone. But yeah, God gave me a big mouth, so I use it.
I will say this, Jessie has said that she will come back for another episode, because
I will. Yeah.
I read the.
I can't. Can you hear me?
We've never had this before.
Hey, we're back.
Gotcha.
Just say, we've never had this before. Way to go.
So, the hell was I saying?
Oh
yeah, she's going to come back. So
episode.
I read the BuzzFeed article, and I reached out to 3 business owners in the area. One of them, of course, my wife, because it's easy to reach out to her, and she's Gen X. But the other 2 are millennials. One's Nicole from Betty's Pages, we've had on.
Sure.
And the other one's Gavin, who's Tardy's. We've had him on too.
Yeah.
And they all came from the corporate world, and they said, this is bullshit. I don't like this. I'm going to go do my own thing.
Yep.
And, reading, not only reading, but seeing your TikTok just kind of cued me into, this is an issue I've seen before. My wife got sick and tired of the daily grind.
Mm-hmm.
So did Nicole, so did Gavin, and they're like, screw this, I want to go do my own thing, because I'd rather work for myself than work for somebody else who doesn't appreciate what I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's possible to do it. The main thing is that, they throw around those stats around like how many businesses fail and all of that. And really, I really truly feel, other than like actual systemic issues that cause people to fail, but one of the best things you can do for yourself is just have entrepreneur friends and like constantly be listening and speaking to entrepreneurs whenever you can. Like, you know, and for a long time, I didn't have entrepreneur friends. I was like, you know, it was me and I had a coach and that was it. And I didn't know anybody like that, especially I was in DC. Like everybody in DC is in government and politics and nonprofits and, you know, think tanks. Everybody's like in a traditional job. They're all lawyers, like whatever. So I felt very isolated during that time, and like nobody gets it. Because when you're an entrepreneur and you're like, oh my God, I haven't made enough sales this month. I haven't made any sales yet. You know that you can say that to another entrepreneur and they'll be like, you'll be fine. You got plenty of time off, 3 weeks left in the year. You're good. Like, it's okay. Just what's fun. Let's come up with an idea. All right, you're good. Give you a pep talk. You say it to someone with a 9 to 5 and they're like, oh my God, how are you going to pay your rent? Oh my God,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? Do you need to borrow money? Do you need me to send you money? And it's like, you don't want that energy. It just makes you more frantic.
Yep.
So it's like, it always comes back to like, you got to surround yourself with inspirational stories, and especially like, and it doesn't matter if they're real or not. That's the other thing. People think like, oh, well, that means I need to watch like documentaries about like, you know, I don't know, like, you know, what is it? Like Warren Buffett. Like I got to watch documentaries like that. No, it's like, you know, great examples. Like, you know, one of my biggest role models is Freddie Mercury. I'm obsessed with Freddie Mercury, and solely because, I mean, we're talking about like a British Farsi guy, gay, beanpole, like, you know, all like totally different life than me. Okay. Rock star, like all very different. But what I identified with, like when I saw the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, like what I identified with over everything else, and like, you know, in all of his biographies, how he knew he was going to be famous, like from so young, and like he just knew, and he just had this like commitment, and he just knew Queen was going to be a success, and like no one could tell him otherwise, and he was so committed to that vision, you couldn't talk him out of it. And like when and he was like so different than everybody else, and yet he took that to mean I'm different because I'm meant for more. And like I got that. You know, I understood as someone who'd been bullied all through school, and like, you know, I was like a nerd and always like, you know, ostracized and cards stacked against me and whatnot. Like I understood that feeling, and I understood what it felt like to be like the best kept secret in the world, and to also know like I'm destined for more. I watched that movie when that movie came out. I saw it in theater 4 times, like, because I was like, it just fed me every time I saw it. And I was like, yes, I understand that feeling. So it's like, is it better if they can look like you? Like I can go watch like the movie Joy about, what's her face? It was played by, you know, Jennifer Lawrence was the actress who played her, but it's like the woman who like made all of these products. Like she invented the self-wringing mop. That was like what the movie was about. And she like basically popularized like, you know, the infomercial channel on TV and everything. So it was like that movie about like, you know, oh, it's a white blonde woman believing in her dream and going after it. Like, yeah, I resonated with that too. So you just have to go for like, and like, you know, I always say like Mel Robbins is one for me, because it's like she's a journalist, lawyer, blonde, glasses. Like I see myself in that very easily. But you don't always have to look like them. You don't always have to have the same background. They don't even need to be real. Like, you know, watching like Leslie Knope on Parks and Rec was a big like role model for me for a long time, where I was like, this is somebody who doesn't give up, and she like never lets go. And like I resonate with that as well.
Yeah,
so it's like,
literally one of my favorite shows.
it is. Yeah,
it's probably my favorite show, honestly. Yeah. Yeah.
I will say, you know, I'm the old one here.
Yep.
And you know, I'm pretty well set in my ways. I like what I like. I do what I do, and I'm happy to do those things. Like, you know, I don't mind showing up to my job every day and clocking in 8 hours, and they pay me what they pay me, and I make good money, and I'm happy. But I know I look at the two of you, and, you know, because Umar and I work at the same place, I know in 5 years, he's not going to be working there. Because he's going to sit there and go, yeah, I don't need to be here. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'd rather, you know, go do this instead. And that's fantastic. In 5 years, I'm 49 years old, and if they want to keep paying me to work from home, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. That's great that you talk about that movie. So one of the most inspirational movies to me as of late. So The Greatest Showman, right?
I know you love that.
Just absolute, like, just talking, like, I absolutely love it, right? Like, it is about different people becoming very successful. This guy took something and created it. I mean, the soundtrack's just amazing. Like, really, it just hit me completely different. Like, this guy is doing something, and granted, I'm in real estate doing whatever, but like, I know that I can do something that other people aren't doing and make this just such an amazing thing. And it really, like, I watch it all the time. Just like, I listen to the music just to pump myself up, right? Like, I absolutely love it. So
but you do that all the time.
yeah,
I mean, how many events have you put on? How many times have you said, hey, I'm going to go buy 15 pizzas and just walk around Grand Rapids and hand it out to, homeless people?
not homeless, anybody that was hungry. It didn't matter.
I
offered it to
understand
people
that.
that
I'm
run
just
it.
saying.
Anybody, like, but that's just, I mean, that's normal, right?
No, that's normal for you. That's not
Yeah,
normal
that's
for
not
people.
normal.
I say, I don't know, like, it to me, it's just
Again, all three of us really are kind of abnormal.
yeah.
Mhm.
And
I mean, Umar, how long did you not drive?
3 years.
yeah, that's right. I forget about
Yeah.
say.
He rode a bike or he took the bus?
Just, I mean, right, he wanted to be financially
Yeah.
successful. I mean, he did everything, right?
Yeah.
And I get so tired. And so one thing, I get beat up because the amount of people that I talk to that are like, oh, I want to be successful, I want to do this. And I'm like, cool, you want to be successful, go out there and knock on that door right there and ask them if they want to sell their house. If they tell you no, you walk to the next one and say, do you want to sell your house? Like, you want to be successful. Like, this is literally, like, you have no money, you have nothing, just walk out there. Like, why are you talking to me? Just go do that. Well, I don't know anything else after that. You don't need to know anything else after that. Once you get them to say, yes, I want to sell my house, here's my phone number, call me, and I will walk there and I'll teach you the next step at that point, right?
That's
Like,
why you have the issue with minimum wage,
right.
because you're always going to get it.
Right. Like, I mean, and again, you talked about it, like, success is completely defined different by everybody, right? But if you just look at me and say, oh, I want money. This is how you get money, right? Money is the easiest goddamn thing in the world to earn, in America to earn, right? Like, it is so easy. It's harder to earn than love, right? Money is so easy to earn.
You just said it though, success.
Yeah.
Okay. You coached with me for a year.
Yeah.
Am I a successful coach?
Yeah.
Why?
Because the lives that we've impacted.
Yeah, but I went 58 and 175.
That's a great record.
I lost 3 times the amount of games I won.
Yeah, but Harbaugh did the same thing. Sorry, we're from Michigan. That's a Michigan joke. Sorry.
But
I
again,
saw that movie. That's the baseball movie, right? With they crack the code on, like, you can do so many walks and, like, whatever. Like, I remember that. Yeah.
Say
Moneyball.
Oh, that's the other one. Yeah. Okay.
No, Jim Harbaugh is the head coach for the University of Michigan, and I'm a Michigan State.
Okay.
Harbaugh keeps losing to Michigan State. And they lose to everybody else. And so, but no, like, I don't know. There's days in my life where I always beg to just be normal, right? Because I want to know what a normal life feels like, and I want to just live a normal life. And then there's other days where it's like, man, you ride that high and you're like, I'm so glad I'm not normal, because I live such a better life than I ever could have imagined for myself, right? When you're an entrepreneur, I mean, your life is a freaking emotional roller coaster, right? Like, you have highs and lows. But say we're gonna wrap up here real quick. But
before,
Jessica
makes a great point here. So I coached her many years.
Yep.
And she obviously had a different high school coach, because I coached at the opposite school of hers. And the 4 years she played with this coach, all she did was tear everybody down.
Yep.
And all I did was build everybody up. And when you're sitting there looking for a mentor or somebody to help you along in your career, you're looking for those people that are willing to build you up. And those are hard to find. They really, really are. And when you do, you just kind of hang on to them.
Yeah. And you hope you hang on to them, right? I mean, that's the biggest key. You have to still give that, right? We were talking about, like, get networking and things like, you have to still give some effort, right? But we talked about goals, and one thing I wanted to hit back, I know this is a while ago, goals, right? You talk about how you relook at your goals and you'd be nothing without a goal. And one of my biggest fears, just like you said it, like, I'm so scared to hit all of my goals, right? Because what's next? Like, and you know, I'm notorious for setting small goals, right? They're large goals to other people, but like to me, it's just because of how quick I hit them. Because if I set a goal, I'm so focused and determined. I am literally an all or nothing person. My wife gives me crap because, you know, if I set a goal, if I set a goal to lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks, like I'm gonna hotbox it. I'm not gonna eat anything. Like I'm gonna guarantee I'm hitting that 20 pounds, right? Granted, it's not, and people, but you have so many outside forces. Oh, that's not healthy for you. Oh, you're doing it the wrong way. Oh, this. Okay, if you knew how to fucking do it, why haven't you taught me? And like literally, I am just straight focused on this goal. This is the only thing I know how to do. Like financial goals for me, right? Like I put a $50,000 goal in 6 months and I reached it in 3 months. And it's not being arrogant. It's literally because, granted, I probably kicked out way too many wrong things on that, right? Like
Right.
This is my goal. This is what I'm doing. Like nothing else matters to me at this point except for this goal. Hey, I want to, you know, so this year I tried making a list of 6 goals. And this started like January or whatever. I hit them all by July and I was like, shit. You know, I was like,
That's
come
so
on.
funny.
Like,
And one of those, you know, I'm one of those people that are really big on quotes. And one of the ones I've always taken to the teams I've coached is it's great to have an end journey towards, but it's the journey that matters in the end.
Yep.
Because, you know, you sit there and you set those goals. Like my team this year, I'm an assistant coach, but I've told 3 or 4 of the top players, listen, we're going to win conference. We're going to win districts. We're going to win regionals. I'm not taking anything less.
right.
You know, and they're rising to that challenge. They're sitting there going, yeah, we're going to win state, which I'm sure they won't listen to this. I don't think we're going to win state.
No.
But I love the fact that they have that kind of confidence.
Go get it.
That's what I want out of kids.
Well, that's what I want out of people. And I think that's what the hard part, right? Like if you tell me a goal, my goal is to help you reach your goal,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm not just going to hand you money because you'll never learn anything. But if I tell you to go knock on a damn door and buy a house like that, and 99% of people won't do it. It's that 1% that makes it something, right? And I tell people, I do like everybody will tell you I'm long-winded. So it's like a 4-hour speech about how to go make money. And then I'm like, but understand that literally it's the one that actually does it, right? That's going to be successful because people don't do it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, people struggle with executive dysfunction too. And it's like, that's a very real thing. Like, I just got diagnosed for ADHD like 2 months ago. And when I say medication changed my life, like, I was like, you mean to tell me that everybody this whole time has been walking around and having thoughts and then doing it? Like immediately after the thought, they did the thought. They had the thought. They didn't sit on the couch for like 30 minutes and stress about it. They did it. I was like, you got to be fucking serious. You got to be fucking kidding me. This is insane. Because it's like my brain was just wired differently where it's like, you know, I talk about, I saw someone on TikTok call it fork theory. So it's like, you know, people with depression and anxiety, which I also have, you know, you only get a certain amount of spoons for the day. And so like people who are disabled or have depression, it's like they have to use spoons on things that like, you know, neurotypical people don't need to use spoons on, which is like, you know, it may be draining to like, you know, put clothes on for somebody who has limited energy. It may be draining to like actually do the drive because of all the stimuli that it's not for other people. And so they run out of spoons before other people do. That's a very simple concept. And with ADHD and autism specifically, it's forks. So you get one task seems to have 4 that come before it. And each one of those seems to have 4 more. And so it's like, you might think like, oh, I'm going to like have this idea. I'm going to clean my kitchen. And then you just never get the kitchen clean because you're getting distracted by all these other things, or you get so overwhelmed with all the steps that you need to do that you never get around to doing it. And it was like, when I went on medication, it melted. It was just like, I just was able to see things in a linear line, like in a linear like order. And I was like, oh, I only have to do this, this, and this. And like, I don't need to get distracted by the other thing. The example I love to use is if you need to make dinner and you notice that your pan is dirty that you need. It's like, A lot of people, like neurotypical people, will be like, wash your pan, make dinner, I'm good. It's fine. But a lot of people are like, well, if I'm going to wash the pan, I might as well load the dishwasher. And then you start loading the dishwasher and you realize you're out of soap, like the dish soap, or you're running low. So you're like, well, let me make a list. So you're like, let me put on a list. Well, if I'm putting on a list, I might as well check the pantry and the fridge, see if I need anything. And then you're like, what the fuck spilled in the fridge? Now I got to wipe that up. And it's like, you're getting farther and farther away. Next thing you know, it's an hour later and you're ordering DoorDash because you never got around to cleaning the fucking pan, right? But what I love about something you had said was, when you had said like, oh, money's the easiest thing in the world to get. And it's, I hear it said in a different way in the spiritual community where people will say, well, money's just energy. Once you know the energy of money, it's easy. Of course you can make, it's just a frequency. And like nobody ever breaks it up. So that I guarantee you there are people who will hear that on the podcast, will hear that and say, the fuck is he talking about? Like money is so hard. It's so hard for me to make money. But it's because they haven't gotten to that point. Like the reason you've gotten successful is because you were never focused on money to begin with. You were focused on influence and like goals and achievement. Like you were focused on giving back. Like you were focused on a passion in addition to like building wealth. But like the wealth wasn't the only thing, and money is never enough to sustain you. Like the desire for money is just not going to get you as far. And like the other thing is that people, like they think of it in a very finite, concrete terms, which only makes it harder for you to think about. You have to kind of like look at it as, money is like less like a fossil fuel and it's more like sunshine in the sense that like you can't see sunshine. You only know it's there because everything is illuminated. And even now, money itself, like is just paper. It's just paper. It's just numbers on a screen. The only reason it has any value is because we as a society have all collectively agreed that this money represents this, like this is what this means, right? And so if you can accept that like money isn't really real, it's just a thing, it's just, numbers, it's just paper. And then you can also accept that like, because it's all going over the Wi-Fi at all times, right? Like, as you're like, people are getting paid, like their paychecks are hitting their bank accounts, they're making car payments, they're making rent payments. You walk into Starbucks and you're paying Starbucks digitally, and then Starbucks is paying their employees digitally. Like it's all like, if you can think about it, like it's literally in the air around you all the time, that's when you start to be like, oh, it is around here all the time. And no one can lose money because like, you're never gonna not have money again. At the very least, you'll find a penny on the street, right? Like there's always going to be money that comes to you again. So when you can start looking at it as like, I can't lose it, like it's always going to come back to me. It's going to come, like maybe not as much, maybe more, it doesn't matter, but it's around me all the time. That's when you start to see things differently and you start to see solutions where you didn't see them before. But the key to all of that is like, you got to be focused on the passion. You can't just be focused on the wealth.
Yeah. And I say, I've enjoyed this episode.
This is one of my favorites.
I say, cause when we first started, like even getting up to this point, right. I was like, man, I like your mindset. I've watched your videos or a few of them. And I'm like, we have an agreement on things, but I also have a very different perspective on things. Right. Like, and she's not wrong, right? But I'm not wrong, right? Like, right. But I enjoy this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate. I mean, we've gone a very good amount of time. Amr, thank you so much for joining us.
So Jesse, give a plug to everething you're on.
Like
TikTok.
Yeah, so we'll be here another 10 minutes. So hold on, guys.
No, yeah, you've got. I'm on TikTok. Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm on TikTok. I'm at their Millennial Money Witch. You can find me there. I have like groups where I do free training on different topics. I've got 2 of those groups. I've got one for careers, like traditional careers. And that one's called 6-Figure Career Queens. And if you literally just go number 6 Career Queens, 6figurecareerqueens.com, it'll take you to the group. You can join it. If you're of the business world, you're more of an entrepreneur, I've got 5-figure launch queens. And like, you don't have to be a woman to be a queen. Everyone is a queen. Okay. So yes, you are a queen.
Yes, queen.
We're all queens.
Yes, queen.
So, again, number 5, figurelaunchqueens.com. That'll take you to the group as well. And then, yeah, you can find me everywhere else under Jesse De Silva with an IE.
Okay.
So, you didn't have much to say, but what do you want to say at the end here?
Nothing.
Nothing. All right.
Thank
you for that.
I want to give a shout out to Michelob Ultra. Thank you for the 2.6 carbs in my beer. I feel healthy today.
You got one of mine over there.
Yes, I do.
Jesse, you want to talk about the beer you had before I talk about mine?
Yeah. I'm Oyster City, one of my favorite breweries in Florida. They're my faves. And I'm
All of a sudden I can't hear anything.
We lost you.
Where did you go? She's still talking. I can't hear her.
I know.
Yeah.
That sucks.
No.
Try it again.
How about now? Okay.
There we go.
There we go. I was saying that I very much have enjoyed my Oyster City Mill Pond Dirty Blonde. It's, Oyster City is one of my favorites in Florida. And I was letting you guys know, I'm sending you some beer from Deep Water Brewing here in Florida, in Tallahassee. And for future reference, Nick, they have a low-cal beer. So you can change it up from Mick Ultra.
Is it a low carb beer?
She just said it was a low carb.
No, she
beer.
said low cal.
It's low cal. I don't know if it's low carb, but
Yeah, I say I'm doing that keto thing.
I'm gonna say it's both.
We're gonna hope.
I know we're gonna go looking for beer for her tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I want to give a shout.
either way, that's not what I'm sending you. So sorry.
You're gonna have full flavored beer.
Sorry, not sorry.
I'm allowed a certain amount of carbs. So if I drink a full carb beer, it's 15 carbs usually or whatever, right? So I just don't eat as much during the day. I get it.
Well, we'll split it. So this does not say we'll split it. So you'll only have half those carbs.
There you go.
So shout out to Dustell Brewery, which has sponsored us before. Their peanut butter porter was delicious.
It was.
Oh, that sounds so good.
It's so good. I will tell you, the Grand Armory Blurred Limes.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. What do you think?
I enjoyed it.
It was very limey.
I was scared it was gonna be a key lime pie, but no, like it was very much because I put limes in all of my beers, and I was like, oh, this is a very good lime beer. I really
do you not like key lime pie?
I don't.
It's awesome.
No.
Oh, you can't say that to Floridian. That's
See?
like, oh.
You're going to Florida next week. You're in trouble.
My wife will have all the key lime pie she wants.
Rogue Santa's Private Reserve Kringle Crusher 2021. Awesome as always. And then I had a Blake's Apple Lantern because why not have?
Because why not?
4 because we were 2 hours tonight. So
yeah.
You're normal.
Guys, I thank you so much for joining us, all of our guests on Twitch.
By the way, Jess just said beer is beer, and she is totally wrong.
It's completely wrong. But say on that note, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your family. Your grandma's gonna love us. I promise you that.
Jesse, thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna stay on, so don't go anywhere, but we're gonna cut it off for the podcast and the Twitch people. So thanks to those people for joining us.
You've dialed in to Bucks and Brews. You might hear something you can use, like tips on your cash or tips on the suds. You're gonna want to use the smarts of these stuff, because they know the brews, and they know the box, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks. So listen up, because shit's not funny, and save yourself some beer money. Bucks and Brews.
Bucks and
Bucks and Brews.
Bucks and Brews.